Most men today wear exhaustion like a badge of honor. They speak of their 4-hour nights with strange pride, as if suffering were proof of dedication, as if destroying themselves slowly were evidence of commitment. They collapse into bed after midnight, scroll through screens until their eyes burn, then drag themselves awake before dawn, convinced that rest is for the weak, that sleep is time stolen from achievement. I see them everywhere, these walking ghosts of ambition, eyes hollow and minds clouded, moving through life in a perpetual fog they have learned to call normal. They believe they are winning. They believe they are getting ahead. But I have spent decades studying human behavior, watching thousands of people rise and fall, and I have learned something most refuse to accept. The man who sacrifices his sleep is not getting ahead. He is falling behind in ways he cannot yet see, losing ground in a race he does not understand he is running. His mind grows duller each day. His patience thins. His judgment weakens. His body begins the slow process of betrayal. And still he pushes, convinced that more hours means more progress, that wakefulness equals worthiness. I have dedicated my life to understanding what separates those who truly succeed from those who merely survive. And one of the clearest dividing lines I have discovered is not intelligence, nor talent, nor even opportunity. It is something far more fundamental, something most people dismiss as insignificant. It is the capacity to give your body and mind the restoration they demand. It is the wisdom to understand that human beings are not machines, that consciousness has limits, that the brain requires darkness and stillness to function at its highest level. The modern world has declared war on rest. We live in a culture that celebrates sleeplessness, that treats exhaustion as evidence of importance, that confuses busyness with effectiveness. Social media floods with images of entrepreneurs working at 3 in the morning, as if nocturnal suffering were the price of greatness. Corporate culture rewards those who arrive earliest and leave latest, regardless of the quality of work they produce in between. Young people speak of sleep deprivation as if it were a competitive sport, comparing their misery like soldiers comparing wounds. And slowly, imperceptibly, we have come to believe that rest is the enemy of achievement. But here is what I know. What I have seen proven again and again in the lives of those who accomplish meaningful things. The opposite is true. Rest is not the enemy of achievement, it is the foundation of it. Sleep is not time wasted. It is time invested in every waking hour that follows. The person who consistently gets 7, 8, 9 hours of quality sleep is not falling behind. They are building an advantage so profound, so comprehensive, that most people cannot comprehend it until they experience it themselves. Let me tell you what happens to a human being who chronically sleeps less than 7 hours. First, the damage is invisible, which is precisely why it is so dangerous. The man sleeping 5 hours a night does not wake up visibly impaired. He can still dress himself, drive to work, sit in meetings, send emails. He feels tired, yes, but he has grown accustomed to tired. He has normalized a diminished state of consciousness. He has forgotten what clarity feels like because he has not experienced it in months, perhaps years. But inside his skull, a catastrophe unfolds in slow motion. His prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for judgment, decision-making, impulse control, begins to shut down piece by piece. Studies show that after 17 hours of wakefulness, cognitive impairment equals legal intoxication. Think about that. The man who wakes at 6 in the morning and stays awake until midnight is functionally drunk for the last hours of his day. And if he does this day after day, he is never sober. He is making major life decisions, having difficult conversations, choosing what to eat, how to spend money, whether to be patient with his children, all while his brain operates in a state of permanent compromise. His emotional regulation collapses. The amygdala, the brain's alarm system, becomes hyperactive in sleep-deprived individuals. Small frustrations feel like catastrophes. Minor inconveniences trigger disproportionate anger. He snaps at people he loves. He overreacts to problems. He catastrophizes situations that, with a rested mind, he would handle with ease. And because this deterioration happens gradually, he does not recognize it. He believes this anxious, irritable, overwhelmed version of himself is who he truly is. He has forgotten the calm, measured, resilient person he becomes with adequate rest. His body begins to rebel. Chronic sleep deprivation disrupts every major biological system. Insulin resistance increases, pushing him toward diabetes. Cortisol levels remain elevated, storing fat around his midsection no matter how much he exercises. His immune system weakens, making him vulnerable to every passing illness. His testosterone drops if he is male, his hormonal balance disrupts if she is female. His hunger hormones go haywire, increasing ghrelin, which stimulates appetite, while decreasing leptin, which signals fullness. So he craves sugar and carbohydrates constantly, gaining weight despite his best intentions. His cardiovascular system strains, increasing his risk of heart disease and stroke. His cells cannot repair properly, aging him faster than time alone would manage. And perhaps most devastating, his memory and learning capacity deteriorate. Sleep is when the brain consolidates information, moving experiences from short-term to long-term memory, integrating new knowledge with existing understanding, solving problems that seemed impossible during waking hours. The person who sleeps poorly learns slowly, forgets quickly, and makes the same mistakes repeatedly because their brain never processes the lessons. They work harder and achieve less, caught in a cycle of effort without improvement. But here is what truly separates the exhausted masses from those getting ahead. It is not just the biological damage, though that alone would be sufficient. It is the cascade of poor decisions that flow from a compromised mind. The sleep-deprived person cannot think clearly about their own life. They lose the capacity for strategic thinking, for long-term planning, for distinguishing between what is urgent and what is important. They live in constant reaction mode, putting out fires, responding to demands, never stepping back to ask whether they are building the life they actually want. They make terrible financial decisions because their impulse control is impaired. They damage relationships because their emotional regulation is broken. They say yes to commitments they should decline because they cannot accurately assess their capacity. They stay in jobs that drain them because they lack the mental energy to imagine alternatives. They eat poorly, exercise inconsistently, neglect their health, not because they lack knowledge, but because they lack the executive function to implement what they know. Every area of life suffers, but because the decline is gradual, they attribute it to getting older, to life being hard, to circumstances beyond their control. They never trace it back to the fundamental choice they make every night when they decide that sleep can wait. I've watched this pattern destroy promising careers, end marriages, hollow out people who once had fire in their eyes. And what haunts me most is how unnecessary it is, because while they sacrifice their sleep for ambition, for entertainment, for the illusion of productivity, other people are making a different choice. These people understand something the exhausted majority has forgotten. There are individuals who structure their entire lives around protecting their sleep. They treat their bedtime with the same seriousness most people reserve for important meetings. They dim lights in the evening, allowing their biology to prepare for rest. They avoid screens before sleep, refusing to let blue light hijack their circadian rhythm. They keep their bedrooms cool, dark, and quiet, creating an environment conducive to deep rest. They go to bed at the same time each night, training their bodies into a rhythm that serves them. And in the morning, they wake not to an alarm that jolts them from deep sleep, but naturally when their body has completed its restoration. These people are not lazy. They are strategic. They understand that their mind is their most valuable asset, and that asset requires maintenance. They know that 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep is not time subtracted from productivity. It is the multiplier that makes every waking hour more valuable. While the sleep-deprived person works 12 hours producing mediocre results, the well-rested person works 8 hours producing exceptional work. The math is not even close. Watch them move through their day. Their thinking is clearer. When problems arise, they see solutions others miss because their prefrontal cortex is fully operational. Their emotional responses are proportional to situations. They do not catastrophize or overreact because their amygdala is not in panic mode. They have patience with people, even difficult people, because their nervous system is not constantly flooded with stress hormones. They make better decisions about what to eat, how to move, how to spend their time, because they have access to the executive function that governs good judgment. They learn faster, remember more, improve consistently because their brain processes information properly during sleep. They build skills while others spin their wheels. They advance in their careers while others plateau. They maintain their health while others deteriorate. They enjoy their relationships while others damage them through exhaustion-induced irritability. And perhaps most importantly, they have energy and enthusiasm for life itself, while others trudge through their days in a state of perpetual depletion. This is not about genetics or luck or privilege. This is about a choice anyone can make. But making that choice requires confronting some uncomfortable truths about modern life and about ourselves. The first truth is that most sleep deprivation is self-inflicted. Yes, some people have legitimate medical conditions that interfere with sleep. Yes, some have circumstances that genuinely prevent adequate rest. Young parents with infants, people working multiple jobs to survive, individuals caring for sick family members. I am not speaking to them. I am speaking to the vast majority who sacrifice sleep voluntarily, who stay up late scrolling, social media, watching shows they do not even particularly enjoy, working on tasks that could wait until tomorrow, or simply refusing to go to bed because sleep feels like surrender. The second truth is that we have been lied to about what productivity looks like. The culture celebrates visible effort over actual results. It rewards people who look busy, who respond to emails at midnight, who brag about their lack of sleep. But visibility is not effectiveness. The exhausted person answering emails at 2 in the morning is not impressive. They are inefficient. They fail to complete their work during waking hours, likely because their sleep-deprived brain was too impaired to work effectively in the first place. True productivity is not about hours logged. It is about problems solved, value created, quality maintained. And quality requires a mind that functions properly, which requires sleep. The third truth is that most people underestimate how impaired they are. The cruel trick of sleep deprivation is that it damages the very faculties you would use to recognize you are impaired. Just as a drunk person insists they are fine to drive, the chronically sleep-deprived person insists they are functioning well. They have no reference point for what they could be because they have not been well rested in so long. They have normalized dysfunction. They think the foggy-headed, irritable, overwhelmed version of themselves is their baseline. They cannot imagine how much sharper, calmer, more capable they would be with proper rest because they have forgotten what that feels like. The fourth truth is that sacrificing sleep is not noble. It is not evidence of commitment or dedication or strength. It is evidence of poor self-management and misplaced priorities. The person who consistently sacrifices sleep is not proving they care deeply about their work or family. They are proving they do not understand how to be effective, because consistently operating on insufficient sleep makes you worse at everything you care about. You are a worse worker, a worse partner, a worse parent, a worse friend, a worse version of yourself than you would be with adequate rest. There is no nobility in self-destruction. Now I want you to understand something crucial. Getting ahead of 99% of people is not about doing something most people cannot do. It is about doing something most people refuse to do. Most people have access to a bed, to darkness, to the possibility of sleep. They choose not to use it properly. They choose screens over stillness. They choose one more episode over one more hour of rest. They choose the false urgency of email over the real necessity of restoration. They choose to live in a state of permanent exhaustion because confronting the choice would require admitting they have been managing their life poorly. But you can make a different choice. You can decide that your mind matters more than whatever is on your phone. You can decide that your health matters more than appearing busy. You can decide that being genuinely effective matters more than performing exhaustion for other people's approval. You can decide that your life, your one irreplaceable life, deserves to be lived with a clear mind and a rested body, rather than endured in a fog of fatigue. This choice begins with a simple act of self-respect. It begins with treating your need for sleep as non-negotiable. Most people treat sleep as something they will do if they have time, after everything else is handled. But everything else is never handled. There is always one more email, one more task, one more episode, one more scroll. If you wait until everything is done, you will never sleep enough. You must reverse the priority. Sleep comes first. Everything else arranges around it. What does this look like practically? It means choosing a bedtime that gives you 8 hours before you need to wake, then protecting that bedtime like you would protect any other important commitment. If you need to be up at 6, you are in bed by 10, not starting to get ready at 10. In bed, lights off at 10. This might mean saying no to social events that run late. It might mean recording the show to watch later, or simply accepting you will not see it. It might mean leaving work unfinished, trusting that your rested mind will handle it better tomorrow than your exhausted mind can handle it tonight. It means creating an environment conducive to sleep. Your bedroom should be cool, ideally between 60 to 67 degrees. It should be dark, truly dark, not dimly lit by electronics and streetlights. It should be quiet or filled with consistent white noise that masks disruptive sounds. Your mattress and pillow should support your body properly. These are not luxuries. These are fundamental requirements for the restoration your brain and body need. It means developing a wind-down routine that signals to your body that sleep is coming. An hour before bed, you begin to disengage from stimulating activities. You dim the lights. You turn off all screens, because the blue light they emit suppresses melatonin production and tricks your brain into thinking it is daytime. You might read from a physical book, listen to calm music, take a warm bath or shower, practice light stretching, write in a journal. You do things that are pleasant but not stimulating, allowing your nervous system to shift from the alertness of day to the quiet of night. It means being consistent, even on weekends. Your body does not understand the concept of weekends. It understands rhythm. When you go to bed at 10 during the week but stay up until midnight on Friday and Saturday, then try to sleep early Sunday, you create a condition called social jet lag. You are essentially giving yourself jet lag every single weekend, then spending Monday and Tuesday recovering. The person who goes to bed at the same time every night within an hour trains their body into a rhythm that makes sleep easier and more restorative. It means protecting your sleep from the demands and judgments of others. Some people will not understand why you prioritize sleep. They will invite you to events that conflict with your bedtime. They will send messages late at night expecting immediate responses. They will mock you for having boundaries around rest. Let them. Their approval is not worth your degradation. The person who respects their own needs does not require validation from people who disrespect theirs. Now let me address the objection I hear constantly. People say they do not have time to sleep 8 hours. They have too much to do, too many responsibilities, too many demands. But this is faulty reasoning. You do not have time not to sleep 8 hours. Every hour of sleep you sacrifice costs you more than an hour of effectiveness the next day. The math does not work the way people think it does. If you sleep 5 hours instead of 8 to get 3 extra hours of work, those 3 hours of work are performed by an impaired brain. The quality is poor, the decisions are flawed, the output is weak, and the next day you are even more impaired, requiring more time to do less. Compare this to the person who sleeps 8 hours. They lose those 3 hours at night, yes, but they are fully present and effective for every waking hour. They make better decisions, work more efficiently, solve problems faster, remember information better, regulate their emotions, maintain their health. Over time, the compound effect is not even comparable. The well-rested person accomplishes more in 8 focused hours than the exhausted person accomplishes in 12 depleted hours. This is what people miss about getting ahead. They think it is about doing more, working harder, sacrificing more. But getting ahead is about being better, working smarter, making decisions from a place of clarity rather than chaos. It is about building a foundation so solid that everything you construct on top of it stands firm. And sleep is that foundation. Everything else in your life, your work, your relationships, your health, your ability to pursue your goals, rests on the quality of your rest. I have seen what happens to people who finally make this change, who finally prioritize sleep after years of deprivation. The transformation is remarkable, not because it is dramatic, but because it is comprehensive. Their thinking clears. Problems that seemed unsolvable suddenly have obvious solutions. Their mood stabilizes. The constant underlying anxiety that colored everything begins to lift. Their patience returns. They stop snapping at people they love. Their physical health improves. The weight they could not lose begins to come off. The energy they thought was gone forever returns. And most significantly, they regain a sense of agency over their life. They stop feeling like a victim of circumstances, reactive and overwhelmed, and start feeling like the author of their days, proactive and directed. This is not magical thinking. This is basic human biology working as it is designed to work. Your body knows how to be healthy, energetic, and clear-minded. It knows how to repair tissue, consolidate memory, regulate hormones, process emotions, all of it. But it needs time to do this work. It needs you to stop interfering with its natural processes. It needs you to lie down in darkness and stillness and allow restoration to happen. When you give your body what it needs, it gives you back capabilities you thought you had lost. But here is what I need you to understand. Nobody is going to prioritize your sleep for you. Your job will not prioritize it. Your employer would happily have you work yourself into the ground if it benefited their bottom line. Your phone will not prioritize it. Every app is designed to keep you scrolling, watching, engaging, regardless of the hour. Your social circle will not prioritize it. People will invite you to stay out late, to keep drinking, to watch one more episode, to answer one more message. The culture will not prioritize it. The culture celebrates exhaustion and mocks rest. You must prioritize it. You must decide that your well-being matters more than their expectations. You must decide that your effectiveness matters more than their opinion of your dedication. You must decide that your life, the one life you have been given, deserves to be lived with a mind that works properly and a body that feels strong. This is not selfish, this is fundamental. You cannot serve others well, you cannot do meaningful work, you cannot be the person you aspire to be if you are operating from a state of permanent depletion. The choice is simple but not easy. Simple because the action is straightforward. Go to bed at a reasonable hour. Create conditions for good sleep. Protect those hours as non-negotiable. Not easy because it requires discipline, boundaries, and the willingness to disappoint people who expect you to sacrifice yourself for their convenience. It requires admitting that you have been wrong about what productivity looks like, that the exhaustion you wore like a badge of honor was actually a sign of poor self-management. It requires changing habits that have become deeply ingrained, resisting temptations that have become automatic. But this is precisely what separates those who get ahead from those who stay stuck. The stuck person keeps doing what everyone else does, sacrificing sleep, glorifying exhaustion, wondering why they feel terrible and accomplish little despite constant effort. The person who gets ahead makes the harder choice, the choice to be different, to prioritize what actually matters over what appears impressive. They endure the temporary discomfort of changing their routine, of setting boundaries, of going against cultural norms. And they reap rewards that compound over time. Because here is the truth that most people never grasp. Success, real success, the kind that lasts and feels meaningful, is not built on dramatic actions or heroic efforts. It is built on boring fundamentals done consistently over time. Sleep is one of those fundamentals, perhaps the most fundamental. The person who sleeps well has energy to pursue their goals. They have clarity to recognize opportunities. They have emotional stability to maintain relationships. They have physical health to enjoy their achievements. They have the mental capacity to keep learning, growing, improving. Everything becomes easier, not because life gets easier, but because they have the resources to handle life's difficulties. Think about the people you admire, the ones who seem to have their lives together, who are effective without appearing, frantic, who accomplish meaningful things without burning out. I guarantee they prioritize rest. They might not talk about it because it is not glamorous, but they do it. They understand that their capacity to contribute to the world depends on their capacity to restore themselves. They treat their body and mind with respect, not as obstacles to overcome or machines to push past limits, but as the irreplaceable instruments through which they experience and shape reality. You can become this person. Not someday, not when circumstances change, not when you have fewer responsibilities or more time. Now. Tonight. You can. Make the decision that your sleep matters, that your well-being matters, that you deserve to live with a clear mind and a rested body. You can set a bedtime, create a routine, protect those hours. You can say no to demands that conflict with your rest. You can turn off your phone, dim your lights, lie down in darkness, and allow your body to do what it has been trying to do all along. And as you do this, night after night, week after week, you will notice something remarkable. Life does not fall apart without your constant vigilance. Work gets done perhaps even better than before. Relationships improve rather than suffer. Your goals, the real ones, not the ones you think you should have, become clearer and more achievable, and you begin to move through your days with a quality of presence that the exhausted majority has forgotten exists. You become one of the few who operates from fullness rather than depletion, from clarity rather than confusion, from strength rather than survival mode. This is how you get ahead of 99% of people, not by doing more, not by sleeping less, not by pushing harder, by understanding that your mind and body are not obstacles to success. They are the foundation of it. By treating yourself with the respect and care that most people reserve only for external achievements. By making the choice every single night to prioritize restoration over stimulation, stillness over chaos, wisdom over cultural pressure. The exhausted masses will keep glorifying their sleeplessness, keep bragging about their 4-hour nights, keep wondering why they feel terrible despite constant effort. Let them. You know better. You understand that true strength is not the ability to endure suffering. It is the wisdom to prevent unnecessary suffering. You understand that discipline is not forcing yourself to keep going when exhausted. It is having the courage to rest when rest is needed. You understand that getting ahead is not about being everywhere, doing everything, responding to everyone. It is about being fully present for what truly matters, and that requires a mind that works properly. So tonight, make a different choice. Choose rest. Choose clarity. Choose yourself. Not because you are weak, but because you are wise enough to understand what actually creates the life you want to live. The world will keep spinning without your midnight emails. The shows will still be there tomorrow. The social media feeds will continue their endless scroll without your participation, but your one life, your one irreplaceable opportunity to build something meaningful, to love deeply, to think clearly, to feel alive, that requires a foundation of rest. Sleep is not a luxury. It is not time wasted. It is not a sign of weakness or lack of ambition. Sleep is the foundation upon which everything else is built. It is the choice that makes all other choices better. It is the discipline that enables all other disciplines. It is the respect you show yourself that determines how effectively you can show up for everyone and everything else. Treat it accordingly. Your future self, the one who is clear-minded, energetic, effective, and genuinely alive, is counting on you to make this choice. Make it tonight. Make it every night. And watch as you move past the exhausted majority into a life lived from fullness rather than depletion. That is how you get ahead. Not by sacrificing your humanity, but by honoring it. Not by pushing past your limits, but by understanding what those limits are and why they exist. Not by doing what everyone else does, but by having the wisdom to do what actually works. Sleep well. Think clearly. Live fully. That is the path.